Now that we center our nickname screen right here, we kind of also want to wrap it in a card, so we have something that looks like the Bootstrap solution we came up with earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how we can wrap this in a card and keep it laid out in the center. So let's try and go into Angular Material first, because Angular Material is where we can see all the components we have available, just like we had a list of components available in Bootstrap. Now there's one big difference. Every time you pick a component inside Angular Material, you have to also import a module in order to use that component. So in our case, I want to use the card. Notice right now there's some problem with getting the information of the card. It's okay, I have an example right here that I'll use. But again, in order to start really using this code, let's view the code. In order to start using the mat card here, I actually need to install a module for that. So I need to import the module called mat card module. Let's try and do that. Jumping into the code right here, I'm inside the chat module, and here I'll import this new mat card module. There we go. So with that in place, I can actually start working with the card. So let's just try again, go to the example and just have a look at all that code for that example. I'm not going to need all this code, but let's just try and get it in there and see what happens. I'll just go into my chat component, and actually right now, let's just hide this for now and just add all of this instead, the new card, and let's see how it's placed into our code. Jumping in here, and there we go. Now we have the beautiful dog, this beautiful card right here. Amazing stuff. Now we need to, of course, clean it up because that's not what we want in our card. But I just want to show you guys how easy it was to get it in there. I'll undo this again, and now let's just try and add the card and keep the other information down here. I'll just add this up here because I don't want to show this login screen unless there's actually somebody inside the chat client. So what do we need? Well, first of all, I want to give it a title. So let's just get rid of some of this right here and add a title up here saying, what did we call it before? We call it Welcome to Chatsies. That's what we're going to do again. Welcome to Chatsies. There we go. So that's the title. We don't need a subtitle, so I'll just get rid of that. We don't need an image in the center. I'll get rid of that. And this is the content area. This is where we want all our content that we want to show. And right now, let's just put everything in there and then get rid of the actions for now, just to make it as simple as possible. There we go. So now we moved all the code from the actual nickname screen into all of this card right here. And let's see how it looks. And there we go. It's already kind of looking the way we want it, but I would like to give it a bit more space. I would like to kind of align these buttons a bit differently. I don't want this send button anymore. So we're going to make a few changes in order to make this look a bit more shiny. So let's start by actually giving this a bit more width instead of the only space it's got available right now. It looks a little small. So if you notice, they use something called example card in their class. Let's try and go and see what that actually was. Back at the card right here, in the example again, in the styling, notice they kind of set up a width out of the box of 400 pixel, a max width. We're going to do something similar now because we also want this to have a width in the beginning. So let's try and figure that out. Now we'll get rid of this class. We don't want to use that anymore. We can use the FX flex right here to explain we want a width. Now we could say 400 pixels just to kind of specify a static width. Let's see what happens if we do that. Now notice it's actually not 400 pixels in the width, it's actually in the height. Now that's because, if we go back to our code, because we set this layout as column layout, and when we do that, it means that it's from the top down, we're going to set the height actually instead of the width. So let's just change this into a row instead, and you'll see the difference. Now it's actually in the width instead, we just changed those 400 pixels. Now I don't want it to be pixels, I actually want it to be percentage. So I'll do 30% instead, just to have a number. And you don't need to put in the percent actually, because FX Flex is out of the box built for actually putting in percent automatically. So now we should have a 30% width. I actually also want to kind of this welcome to Chatsies to be centered. So let's try and see if we can do that. We're going to, in the header, going to be doing FX layout align, and we're going to try and say, we're going to put it at the center horizontally and at the top vertically. Let's see what happens. And boom, now it's centered. Nice.